guys, thanks for checking out the video. On this one we're going to start looking at body position through some starters. We've got a bit of a pump track set up here, and this is really applicable to riding on rough ground and so forth. Now the key to riding the bike is to be nice and smooth and relaxed on the bike. Now the way we like to look at it is that if the bike is moving your body around, you're a passenger. When you can set your body position nice and stable and let the bike move under you, that's where you become a rider. And that's where the whole ride becomes a lot smoother, a lot safer. The only time you typically fall off is when the bike pushes your body in an awkward angle or you move off center. So what we're going to do through here is we're just going to have a look at that body position. Now, in the previous video, we did this rolling around on flat ground, and we were talking about chin over stem, bum over the seat, nice and centered, and elbows forward. Really strong position. Now, if we're going over rollers, what we want to do is be positioned fairly middle of the bike so that there's room for the front to come up and to go down and extend it. And what you should be able to do is achieve that balanced position where most of your weight's on your pedals and you're quite relaxed, and then the front of the bike and the back of the bike can come up and down as you move through. Now the default position for this is not to be trying to pump. We'll talk about that a bit later. The default position is always absorbing the force. So as you come into a rough bit of terrain or a pump track, the first thing you want to do is be nice and relaxed and absorb all the force that's coming through the bike so that you're nice and smooth across it. Once you can do that, you can start adding some pressure and pushing and pulling yourself. So the first thing we're going to do is give you a bit of a demo of what it looks like when you roll through nice and smoothly. I'm not going to be doing anything to try and speed up. All I'm doing is just relaxing and letting the bike move under me. So check out the demo. Okay guys, so you'll have seen from that demo that when you get your body position nice and stable and you let the bike move, it becomes really smooth and you're not getting kicked around by the bumps. Now this applies equally as well in rock gardens and all sorts of terrain. A pump track like this is an ideal place to practice because it's fairly smooth, you've got that nice consistent routine to it, and it lets you really get used to actually absorbing the forces and being nice and relaxed on the bike. Once you can do that, then you can start taking this technique out onto other trails. Now, the next step we're going to look at is actually starting to accelerate through this by pumping and applying a bit more force. So the easiest way to start is using your arms. And once again, this is why having those elbows forward is a much stronger position. Because if your arms are down and you're pushing and pulling there, it's not hugely stable and you're relying purely on forearm strength to be able to push. Okay, unless you've got massive Popeye forearms, you're not going to get a lot of force through it. Whereas as soon as you start to bring your elbows out, then you start bringing in all your big muscles, like for a bench press or a push-up, and you get a lot more strength. Now body position wise, I just step back onto the hump so you can see it. What we're looking for is if you're in a fairly neutral position, then as you come up, you've got a little bit of room to let the bike come up, and then as you get to the top, you can push the bike down. So rather than just relaxing with it, you're actually pushing it up and down, and that's going to start generating some speed for you. Cool, so we're keeping our body position nice and forward and low. So that means as the front comes up, you can let it come up and you can actually pull it up a little bit. When you get to the top, you can push it down. What this is going to do, it's going to start generating some extra power for you, and you'll actually start to accelerate as you go through. Now, boring you a little bit with some high school math, it's a bit like your old sine wave math. If you're in sequence, it gets bigger. If you get out of sequence, then it sort of flatlines. So what you're going to find is as you come through, if you're pushing and pulling at the right time, the bike will go faster. If you get out of sequence, then it's going to start bucking your body around more. So the trick is, as soon as you feel like it's starting to move you around, go back to relaxing. You relax a little bit, you get back in sequence with it, and then you can start pushing and pulling. Now this is really easy to demo on a piece of trail like this, and it's a great place to practice, but it's equally as applicable on any trail. You can do it off any obstacle, you can do it through rock gardens, you can even do it through berms and so forth. But having somewhere like this to practice is a really great way to get your timing sorted out. So we'll give you a little bit of a demo. I'll come in a little bit slower this time, and then what you'll see is by pushing and pulling with my arms, I can start to generate a little bit more power. So I'll give you a bit of a demo. And push down, pull, push, pull. Through that, you will have seen how by being nice and smooth with pushing and pulling, it's starting to accelerate the bike through the terrain. So give that a go, get a bit of a feel for it, see how it works for you. Okay guys, so from those demos you'll start to see how that you can actually generate speed through this sort of terrain using just your arms. Now what we're going to do now is switch to using our legs. Now your legs are a lot stronger, so you can actually get even more force out of your legs. Now a lot of BMXers and people that race pump track use a lot of body movement to really put a lot of power through their legs. This works really well on a standard series of rollers like this, but given as how we're using this as more for practice to use on the trail and on rougher pieces of trail, then you're probably better off not to be doing that. So ideally, you want to be maintaining your body position so that if something hits you that you're not expecting, you can control it better. And as you're comfortable with it, put some force through your legs to accelerate. Now it's a little bit more difficult than using your arms, because if we sort of demo on here, when you're using your arms, you've got that visual context to allow you to see when the front's coming up and down. Whereas with the back, it's all about feel. So what you need to do is you'll start to feel the back come up. As it gets to the peak, then it'll start to go down again. Now what you need to do is just get your timing right, so you're lifting and pulling at the right time. So it's a little bit harder to do. I'll give you a bit of a demo and you'll be able to see how much power I can generate by using my legs without a huge amount of body movement. And you can see from that demo, it's quite easy to generate a lot of power without really moving my body around all that much at all. So guys, the final step to this is to put it together. So this is a bit of a pat your head, rub your tummy type exercise. So what we're going to start doing is pushing and pulling with our arms while we're pushing and pulling with our legs. Now where it becomes complicated is because you're not necessarily in sequence. So your arms could be coming up while your legs are going down. And this track we're using here, the gap actually gets narrower between the humps as you go through it. So the timing actually varies as you're going through the terrain. Once again, it's great to practice on something like this if you've got access to it. Other than that, you can make do with whatever humps you've got on your local trails. And as you get better at it and start to really get it dialed, you can start to apply it as you're going through rock gardens, little humps on the trail, all sorts of features where you can just start milking that little bit of extra speed out of the trail. And it just makes you that bit more flowy and a lot more smooth on your bike. So really, really benefits your riding. So we'll give you a bit of a demo using arms and legs, and you'll see how we can sort of keep it nice and smooth and generate a whole lot of speed. So you can see guys, it's really easy to use this technique to generate a whole pile of speed through the trail. Hopefully this was really useful. Go out and practice it, and we'll see you in the next video.